If you want to know where to live in Atlanta and you're looking for the best small towns around the metro Atlanta area, I've got the top 5 for you right now. Starting off at the top of the list with number 5, Fayetteville is in Fayette County, is kind of on the south side of the metro Atlanta area, so it's much closer to the airport. Also, it's close to other cities like Peachtree City or Tyrone, also kind of close to Fairburn, and this is a very family-friendly suburb. Certainly a small town. I tried to pick a lot of these cities that were not very populated, not cities that are like super close to the city, certainly not towns that have like high-rise buildings and have that urban feel. These are much more of a quiet kind of areas. And so Fayetteville is certainly that, much more of a quiet town. It's got that quiet feel. People there are very friendly. There are lots of great neighbors, and like the community there is really good. This is all kind of the thing that a lot of people are going for when they choose Fayetteville. They want that community and that safe, family-friendly atmosphere. Also, very often, people who choose to live on the south side, they want to be closer to the airport, or they're looking for more home for their money. You can also find that in Fayetteville. And so those are some of the reasons why I would pick Fayetteville to be in the top 5 of the best small towns around Atlanta. What's up, y'all? My name is Victor with Atlanta Suburban Living. We put out videos every week about what it's like to live in Atlanta and the suburbs of Atlanta. Another great thing about living in Fayetteville is that it's much closer to the city of Atlanta, even though it is a small town. Very often, people who live in Fayetteville tend to work in one of the other suburbs around there where maybe there's more economy, or they work in the city of Atlanta because there's not really a lot of jobs in Fayetteville. And as you can imagine, in a lot of these small towns that we're going to talk about, there isn't a lot of like economy and employers. And so very often people who live in Fayetteville go to Atlanta for work, and that commute is probably about 45 minutes, maybe an hour during terrible rush hour traffic. While Fayetteville is a small town, it definitely has that kind of suburban feel. And so this is not like the kind of city where you're going to find a whole lot of things to do. If you're looking for something like that, typically residents of Fayetteville go to Atlanta for like sports games, or maybe one of the neighboring suburbs for something specific. But of course, there is a lot of like shopping and restaurants in Fayetteville, as that is what you typically find in these suburbs. And so areas like the Fayette Pavilion is one of those shopping areas right in there in Fayetteville, with lots of stores and lots of restaurants. And then homes in Fayetteville, you're typically looking at about $400 to $450 for the average price for a home in Fayetteville. You can certainly find homes lower, maybe closer to about in the low 300s to mid 300s for a home in Fayetteville, but you're looking at an average of about $425. Number 4 on the list of the top 5 small towns around Atlanta is Sugar Hill. If you're thinking about moving to Sugar Hill, or you just have any questions about what it's like to live here, feel free to call, text, or email me anytime. I'm a local real estate agent here in the metro Atlanta area, and I'd be happy to help with your moving needs. But Sugar Hill is certainly one of the best small towns around the city of Atlanta, and Sugar Hill is in Gwinnett County. And so while Atlanta is in Fulton County, Sugar Hill is in a neighboring county, Gwinnett, and there are lots of great things about living in Gwinnett. For example, the schools are like notorious for being, I don't know if notorious is the right word, famous maybe, famous for being some of the best in all of Georgia there in Gwinnett, and Sugar Hill also has excellent public schools. The other thing about Sugar Hill is that it has like direct access to Atlanta, unlike Fayetteville, where you'd have to take a lot of back roads to get to one of the interstates to get to Atlanta. Sugar Hill is very close to Interstate 85, so very easy access to get down to Atlanta. It's still a bit of a drive, about 35 miles to Midtown from Sugar Hill, but this is one of the things that comes with these small towns, is that they tend to be farther away from Atlanta. And very often, people who live in these small towns like Sugar Hill or Fayetteville, they rarely go to Atlanta, maybe for work, but there's not really a whole lot of other things that you would need to go to Atlanta for. All of the things that you would need, like the schools and the groceries and the restaurants and the shopping and the post office, all of that stuff, maybe DMV, like driver services, whatever, I don't know, whatever else things people do. All of those things are there in these individual cities. So Sugar Hill has all of that. And if there's something that you need that's not in Sugar Hill, you would just go to one of the neighboring suburbs like Swanee or Johns Creek, which are right next to the city of Sugar Hill. As you can imagine, these small towns, a common denominator is that they are very family friendly. So Sugar Hill is also a family friendly suburb with excellent schools and very safe. And that's why I've listed it at number 4. Another thing that I love about this city is that it's got an excellent downtown area. Fayetteville's downtown area is, it's okay, it's not great, but Sugar Hill has an excellent downtown area. They've got the Bull like amphitheater thing there, which is super popular. They have concerts there sometimes, lots of different events going on there. And so this is certainly one of the highlights of living in this city. Okay, number 3 on the list of the top 5 small towns around Atlanta is Canton. This is one of my favorites. In fact, if I was ever going to move, I would seriously be considering Canton. It is very far north of Atlanta, and it's kind of north of like Woodstock, north of Holly Springs, and Canton is in Cherokee County. And they also have a great downtown area. And they have one of the best city centers, in my opinion. That's like this old mill that used to be for doing mill things, whatever people did at mills. I don't know what they did back in the day, maybe made paper or something. But now it's been transformed, and now it's like revitalized into a bunch of shops and restaurants. And they've got this big, huge like television there where they often play Atlanta Braves games or Atlanta Falcons games. Maybe not so much Atlanta Falcons. We're not doing too well this year. But lots of Atlanta Braves games. Oh, wait. Atlanta Braves also not doing so well. But they play a lot of sports and stuff like that. So in the evening times, and especially on the weekends, they've got a big screen TV out there and a bunch of like patio tables. And so families are often out there on the big green lawn with whatever it is they've got playing on the TV and kids running around. And so again, very family friendly kind of suburb is Canton. Excellent schools, super safe, quiet, small town, and this is the kind of thing that a lot of people are looking for. One thing about Canton is that there is a lot of outdoor activities, outdoor recreation to do in Canton. Many of the suburbs have a lot of these kinds of outdoor activities, rivers and creeks and lakes. Like this is all over the metro Atlanta area. But because Canton is so far out, there is a lot going on there. The Etowah River, in fact, goes right through like that little downtown area. And so the Etowah River provides lots of outdoor activities. And not only do they have the mill, which is kind of a city center, but they actually have, in addition to that, like a proper downtown Canton area. And so this is more so an area that was developed a lot longer ago with much older buildings, has that historic charm. And so Canton kind of has these two city centers, and they are very close to each other, the mill on Etowah and downtown Canton. So certainly lots to do in Canton, but it's not like there's a lot of like super exciting nightlife. It's not like there's lots to do in that sense, but there is a lot to do in Canton in the sense of like mom and pop shops, local restaurants, these kinds of things is certainly plentiful in the city of Canton. When it comes to home prices in this city, you're looking at about $500, maybe $550 for the average sold price in the city of Canton. So it is kind of up there when it comes to these small towns. One thing that goes along with a lot of these small towns is that they tend to have lower home prices because they are so small, but Canton is the exception. I think Canton, as far as all of the cities that I've got on the list, Canton might be the most expensive when it comes to home prices. You can find homes as low as maybe 400 there in Canton, but anything lower than that, and you'd be looking at like something that probably needs a lot of work, or maybe an investment property. And so you probably want to be careful looking for anything lower than 400,000 in the city of Canton. Number 2 on the list of the best small towns around Atlanta is the complete opposite. It actually has the most affordable homes, and this is such a great suburb. It's Powder Springs, and Powder Springs is unique in that it is in West Cobb, so it's in Cobb County, but there's a small part of Powder Springs that's in neighboring Paulding County. This is actually kind of common here in Georgia. I don't know why this happens so often, but there are a lot of cases where these cities that are right on the border of a county line happen to be a little bit in both counties, which can be kind of confusing. One that is notorious, and maybe that's the proper use of the word, is Alpharetta. Alpharetta is mainly in Fulton County. This is not a small town, though. By no means is Alpharetta a small town, but for an example, Alpharetta is mainly in Fulton County, but a little part of Alpharetta is in neighboring Forsyth County to the north. And so very often people who buy a home in the Forsyth County part of Alpharetta are kind of confused, like, what city do I live in? What county am I in? It's kind of confusing, but like the Halcyon in Forsyth County, Alpharetta is in Alpharetta, but it's in Forsyth. Anyways, Powder Springs does the same thing. Most of Powder Springs is in West Cobb. And so you have all of these Cobb County amenities, the schools, the neighbors, the community, the safety, all of those things can be found in Powder Springs, but the average home price is closer to like 350, 400,000. So you're getting really big bang for your buck there in the city of Powder Springs. Lots of great amenities. It's a great small town, but you're not having to pay as high as the city of Canton. Typically, you find a lot of families in Powder Springs, especially people who have been there for a while and realize that they can get that West Cobb, Marietta feel in neighboring Powder Springs, pay less and get more for their home. And so you got a lot of families out there, maybe a few retirees who are trying to get away from the big city looking for a small town. You can certainly find that demographic in Powder Springs as well. But keep in mind, Powder Springs is probably the smallest of all of these towns. So when it comes to things to do, or like restaurants or shops and things like that, there is the least amount of those things in Powder Springs. Most people who live in that area, they drive to neighboring Marietta for all of that shopping and work even very often, because Marietta is a very big city with a lot of economy, a lot of industry. So very often people who work in Marietta live in Powder Springs. You're cutting your commute down to like 20 minutes, which is mind-blowing here in the city of Metro Atlanta. You're not having to deal with a lot of rush hour traffic if you've got that situation going on. So working in Marietta and living in Powder Springs is a great deal. And then number 1 on the list of the best small towns around Metro Atlanta is Woodstock. Woodstock is also in Cherokee County, just north of Marietta, and they've got an excellent downtown area, excellent schools, great community, again, very safe. This is not a huge city. However, you really got to keep in mind here that the city center, or like the downtown part of Woodstock, is very busy, and it does have that kind of like super fast-paced feel, sort of. Not like the city of Atlanta, but certainly more so than many of the other suburbs around Atlanta. Main Street, going right through downtown Alpharetta, is kind of a cluster. And so you kind of want to be careful driving through there. It's always traffic going on there. There's rarely ever parking, except that now they've got the parking deck finally finished. And so there's a lot more parking in the parking deck, but you're farther away from the center of Woodstock. When I say that Woodstock has that small town feel, I'm referring to everything outside of the downtown Woodstock area. And so places like areas off of Highway 92 or closer to Lake Allatoona to the west, these areas are much more of a quiet town. And so very often people who live in that part of Woodstock, they're able to go to downtown Woodstock for whatever restaurants, shopping, things in the evening, but then you can quickly just duck right back out of there and not have to live within that madness of downtown Woodstock. It's certainly something to get used to if you're going to live in Woodstock and kind of like not deal with that traffic on Main Street, but really how that city feels and what it looks like, that's one of the biggest factors for whether or not you're going to want to move there. You know, if you walk to that area and you walking down the street in Woodstock and you're like, oh, this is like super too intense for me, then maybe that's not the right city. But if it is your pace, if it is your vibe, then maybe it is the right city. So to help you understand whether or not it's the right city for you, I actually went on a walking tour of the city of Woodstock, went through downtown Woodstock, showing you the different areas. You can check out that video right here. I'll see you in the next one.